Welcome back. Now our next guest, he has worked with some of the biggest names in the music industry, including Van Morrison, U2, the Kinks, the Waterboys and Rory Gallagher.
Yes, and he's back now with his latest novel. Here it is here. Please welcome agent and author Paul Charles. Good morning.
Good morning.
You.
Hi, Paul.
Lovely to see you. Let's go back and how you started in the music industry, because you've worked with so many people, but was it a Beatles song, Please Please Me, that
was,
sort of
yes, no,
literally sparked an interest?
I walked into my mum's kitchen one day and she was busy working away, and she always had the radio on, waiting for, you know, one of the articles she liked, like I'm Ford and the Checkmates, I'd love to get you in a slow boat to China, all of those things. And I walked in, she was enjoying herself, and then this sound came on the radio, and it was just incredible. I mean, it literally, physically, mentally, spiritually stopped me in my tracks.
Wow.
And it was so pleasing, it was so melodic, it was just really perfection, you know, and it was the Beatles. And I wasn't the only one feeling that at the time. It was happening up and down the country and then to all other countries. So that kind of got me turned on to music in a big, big way. Before that, it had been, you know, if it was on the background, it was okay, whatever, but this was committed. Not that I had decided in that moment that I wanted to be in the music business or whatever.
But then you did end up being an agent and a promoter for these huge names for years and years.
Yeah.
Like, how did that come about, and what was it like working with such huge personalities?
Well, I mean, well, first of all, what it was like was that I started with a group of my friends, formed a wee group called the Blues by Five. And I wanted to hang out with them, to continue with my friends. But I couldn't sing, you know, which was obvious to anybody that's heard me. My dad didn't have a car, which was another requirement to being in a group, because he had a ferry that lands the gigs. So I knew a guy in a show band, Dixie Care, and I knocked on the door and said, look, would you ever give the lads a couple of relief spots in the ballroom? He said, yeah, of course, yeah. So I went to the band and said, right, because they rehearsed a lot but didn't have any gigs, or shows as they were called then, or bookings as they were called then. And so I said, OK, I've got you these couple of gigs with the Breakaways. And they said, OK, good, you're the manager. And really, it went from there. You know, I hadn't intended to become a manager or an agent, but it was just a way of being involved in something that I loved. And I never had any hang-ups about not being able to make music. But I got a lot of pleasure out of helping people who made music get up on the stage and
do it. And I mean, the names were there, U2, the Kinks, the Waterboys, Dexys Midnight Runners. But there's one name that, like, you know, when you're mixing with all these people, you wouldn't think you'd be starstruck by anybody. But there's one man, when he walked into your office, you literally lost for words, Van Morrison.
Yeah, no, I booked it with his manager in America, a guy called Bill Graham. I booked him to do a tour. I'd never met him in person. I wrote a lot about him. I used to write for a couple of papers in Belfast, City Week and Thursday. And, you know, I wasn't... Because, again, in those days, people like Jackson Browne and Tom Waits and Van, although they have managers, they still work face-to-face, hands-on with the people they work with, you know. But anyway, I sit in my office and the receptionist said, oh, there's a geezer right here, said he's Van Morrison, you know. And it was like... Because I wasn't expecting him, he just was in town for rehearsal, so... I kind of went out and he said, and he actually said the words, hi, I'm Van Morrison.
And you were like, yeah.
And I really could not get a word through my mouth.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway, I got to work with him, did a tour, and then kind of became more involved with him as an agent and at one point as his manager for a while.
It's amazing, this music career that's come about, like this wonderful music career you've had. But at the time, you've written so many books, and you've got a brand new one, High Love. You just dropped your glove. This is the third in the Buster McCusker mystery series.
Yes.
Tell us about this. The title.
Okay, well, the title actually is connected with Van indirectly. There's a line in Van's Madame George, a song from Astral Weeks, which, in my opinion, is probably the best record ever made in the history of the world. And there was a line in it that goes, hey, love, you forgot your glove. And it hit me when I heard it first. I mean, all those, you just listen to it so much, you kind of get tired of it. And I just imagined this scene of a club, a party in a club in Ladbroke Grove in London. There's this guy, probably an Ulster man, because he came from the man, and he's kind of sitting there and he sees this beautiful girl and he wants to make a connection, but he doesn't know how to make a connection. He doesn't know how to go up and just start a conversation with her, you know. And then she gets up to leave the party and he notices that she's left the glove. And so he kind of thinks, okay, this is my way to make a connection. He said, I love, you forgot your glove.
Yeah.
So later, all those years later, 35 years later, there's two of the main characters in the book that I wanted to find a way, a natural way of, because how people meet each other, how wives meet husbands, it's always intrigued me. How does it happen? How does it click? How does it not click?
Yeah.
And so this guy is with his mates. He's walking around the streets of Portrush. He comes across these three girls walking around the streets of Portrush. He sees this beautiful girl in the middle, green eyes, long hair. He's immediately spellbound by her. And again, and then he notices that she dropped her glove. So he says the words, "Hi, love, you just dropped your glove." And so they make a connection. And then he doesn't know what to say to her, so he just turns and walks away, and then spends the rest of that weekend walking around the streets of Portrush trying to meet with her again, and then she stumbles upon him. So then they meet up, and then that's the other thing that's always intrigued me, is that thing about, and they lived happily ever after. What does happen the morning after, people meet and get together and whatever, And then the other main part of the book was that it happens in Portrush, and it happens around the time of the UK Open when
Rory McIlroy and the whole gang there.
Rory had the meltdown and didn't make the cut. And really, it was like a massive wake. It was like really the entire town were talking about nothing else. About poor Rory, whatever. And so when they put the two things together, you had the characters you wanted, and then you kind of go off. And again, a lot of the times I follow the lead. I don't say, this is who it is, this is how they are. They actually talk to you through the writing process.
Golf and a murder mystery.
There you go.
Rory McIlroy, what were you doing up at the golf links in Portrush? It's called Hi Love, You Just Dropped Your Glove. It's a McCusker mystery. It's the third one in the series. Paul Charles, thank you so much for joining us
My
today.
pleasure.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for dropping in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Tommy has some flowers.
Hey, I need to start wearing a hat. What do you think?
Would you?
That is a cool hat, isn't it?
Go on, you are cool.
Right, coming up after the break, it might be raining outside, but we did see a bit of sunshine over the weekend. Phoebe is here with us. She's going to tell us what's in season right now and making us some dandelion coffee. There you have it, after the break.